Good afternoon. This is going to be my boxing rant slash boxing moan of the week. It's really following the back of the fight last week involving the former Olympic champion Zhu Ximing of China, if I've even pronounced his name right. I don't want to try and pronounce the name of his opponent because I am absolutely terrible at pronouncing names from that type of the side of the world, and I'd probably end up saying something that's probably offensive in their language rather than the guy's name. But this is different. I mean, my rant is basically should amateur boxing champions get such a push, or not necessarily push, but like, what's the right word I'm looking for here? All right, then let's forget the word. Why are amateur boxing champions being given world title shots within 3, 4, 5, 6 professional fights as a pro? Right? This is really starting to piss me off. It looks like it's like a trend that's going to continue to grow. Right? I don't care how good a fighter is at amateur level. I don't. Because amateur and pros are completely different. Even now, where the amateur game has now took headgear or headguard, whatever you want to call it, away from the amateur game, they're still not fighting 12-round fights for world titles, for big money in front of big fan bases and fan audiences all over the world. You know, they've not got all the added pressures of being a pro. All they've done is just took headgear away. And it's like I say, they're smaller fights, they're shorter fights. Amateur is nothing like the pro, and it never will be. That'll be like trying to say, like in any sport really, it'd be like saying, for example, a footballer or soccer player, if you're American watching this, playing semi-pro, scores, 20 goals in the conference, all of a sudden deserves his shot at a Premier League team like Manchester United, just because he scored 20 goals in a season at an amateur level. It doesn't mean jack shit. What that means is he's probably going to get poached by a League 2 club the next season and start working his way up the pyramid rankings of football, see if he can get better, see if he can reach the pinnacle of the top, which is the Premier League. Or if you're a lucky youngster, of course, then you start at a Premier League club in the youth team. Then you have to impress in the youth team, impress in the under-21s, or press out on loan at a championship club if you get sent out on loan, and gradually work your way to the top into the first team. Okay? And boxing's always been that way. Olympic champions, they come into the pro games, they start at the bottom like everybody else, they get their experience, they work their way up, they work their way up, they work their way up, and they get to the top. So why, of recent times, and two fighters stand out to mind, Vasyl Lomachenko, who is a fighter I detest, and Zhu Ximing. Lomachenko got a world title shot in his second fight against, of course, the experienced Orlando Salido. And Zhu Ximing has just got his first world title shot in his sixth fight. What was Rigondo? Rigondo was like, his ninth fight or something like that, his eighth fight? He got his world title shot and won his world title. And there's a couple of others as well that I just... in fact, no, let's think. I'm sure I can remember. No, forget it, but there are a couple of others. And that's the main thing. Right, so why is this becoming a growing trend? Because for me, right, there are boxers out there who spend a lot of years training hard, working hard, don't necessarily have a great amateur career, but they reach the pros and they flourish. Yeah? They reach the pro game and it's like a duck on war, it's like they've been natural. It's like they've been waiting for that for years to get out the amateur and the travelling of the amateurs and get into the experience of the pros, being on the undercards of the big fights, fighting in arenas full of people that are cheering your name even. And that does happen. You look at look at British fights or prize fights or anything like that. You got guys that are coming into those fights with even 1 or 2 fights on their record and they've already got a little fan base chanting their name. You don't get that in the amateurs, right? But those guys, they were shit in the amateur, but all of a sudden they flourish in the pros and they become world champion in the pros. You got guys who are fantastic amateurs, and then they're just wasted talent for pros. Solis, heavyweight. Is it Orlando Solis, who Tony Thompson's just beat again recently in Turkey? I mean, he was an absolutely amazing amateur, fantastic amateur. He stepped into the pro game. He's just doesn't look like the same fighter we've seen. And this is my point. Why, it's a slap in the face when an amateur champion goes into the pro games and they're getting a professional title shot within 10 fights. Anything under the 10 fight mark is a slap in the face. It shouldn't be allowed. It's not right. Everyone should have to work their way up like everybody else. Just because you won a couple of Olympic titles, yeah, big deal. That's the Olympics. That's not the world championship. That's not the WBC title, the WBA title, IBF, WBO. You didn't have to go into an arena screaming fans for that. Okay, the Olympics is a big platform. I get it. Yeah, but the people in the arena, in an Olympic arena, aren't necessarily boxing fans. They're there because they had the right. They won tickets or they bought tickets because they wanted to go to an Olympic event. A lot of the people in those arenas at Olympics aren't actual boxing fans at all. They're just there to be part of the event. It's like the people in the main event, the main stadium for the athletics. A lot of them couldn't give two shiny shits about, like the high jump or the triple jump or the hammer throw, but they're enjoying their day and they're enjoying being part of an event that's only once every 4 years. So they get involved and they get behind the people involved, and they enjoy the experience. But they're not the type of people that would go out their way to stream hammer throw competitions from the Ukraine or anything like that. You know what I mean? Right? So I'm just sick of this trend of amateur stars or amateur champions just getting their world title shots too fast. If they're good enough, yeah, they will get their title in time and they will work their way up like everybody else. Because if they're good enough, they will beat anyone that you put in their path. And that is the way boxing should be, because it's the way it's always been. I'm sick and tired of this growing trend and I want it to stop. Otherwise, you may as well just scrap the professional boxing system and say people can't go professional until they've won an amateur title or done enough in the amateurs, because there's then no gap. You're just saying to people that you can be an Olympic champion in August of 2016, let's say in Rio, you can be the Olympic boxing champion, but it's okay if you go pro in September and win your first 3 fights or something like that, you could be having a shot for the WBA title come January, February time, and that's not right. It needs to be stopped. I'm sick of seeing it. Lomachenko bores me off to death anyway. I was so glad when he lost to Salido, but then he got put in another bullshit title fight straight away with Gary Russell Jr. Gary Russell Jr., he's not a technically gifted fighter that's on the level of a Lomachenko, and neither has he got the skill or the type of ability that would be able to neutralise a Lomachenko's type of ability. So that was just a bullshit title fight that was always going to go in one person's favour, and that person was Lomachenko. He may as well just stood there and look pretty for the cameras, because it was bullshit. And Zhu Shiming losing last week, just like Lomachenko did in his second fight against Salido, his first crack at the world title. Shiming losing last week proves once again amateur champions need time in the pros. They need to work their way up. They need to adapt to the pro game before they get the correct title shot. I mean, for fuck's sake, Lomachenko didn't even win a domestic title or a regional title, nothing. He just, no, I don't want to see it no more. If you disagree with me, that's fair enough, but for me, it's a slap in the face for the guys that work hard every day, that want to make it in the pro game, that necessarily weren't the greatest of amateurs. It's a slap in the face for every single one of them fighters, and I can understand all the hatred that goes their way. And for the promoters out there, if you're a promoter, yeah, and you're doing this because you're making fucking money off it, you're a dirty fucking bastard. Dirty fucking bastard. That is all wrong with the professional boxing game. People say professional boxing is on the decline in the USA, even now, even still, despite the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight still being made. Yeah, if that's the case, then people that promoting people like Lomachenko with world title fights, that's your fucking problem. People like El Heyman, despite the fact I agree with taking boxing back to nationalised TV on PBC, so the PBC programme, I think that was a good move. But apart from that, He's the type of twat that prevents fights from happening. He pulls his fighters out of fights. It's bullshit, and he keeps the world titles internal. Again, people don't need boxing doesn't need people like El Heyman. I don't believe this funky El Heyman fucking bollocks. No, fuck off. People do not need people like boxing does not need people like him either. Yeah, that's why boxing is on the decline in the States, because of twats like that. Yeah, and then you got the political bullshit between HBO and Showtime as well, which I just can't understand, because over here we have Sky Sports and we have Box Nation, and if a fight needs to be made, they will make it. There's plenty of negotiation that goes on, but we haven't got presidents of TV companies getting involved, or promotional companies fucking slagging each other off every 2 minutes, or if the fight's going to happen, it happens because we want those fights to happen. And it's the same in Germany, it's the same in China, it's the same in every country where boxing is currently on the rise. And in Britain, for example, you don't see us getting our Olympic gold medalists and our amateur champions world title shots within the first 2 to 3 fights just for the sake of making a bit of fucking money. No. You look at our most recent crops, our 2 biggest medalists from the London 2012 Olympics was Anthony Joshua, our heavyweight, who probably is, in fairness, good enough, certainly ability-wise, to step in with any world champion right now, at heavyweight, Deontay Wilder or Vladimir Klitschko, or if you want to go for the bullshit regular title, who's held that? Is that still Povetkin's title? Is it still Povetkin's title? Might be. But this is what I'm saying. But just because he's good enough, it doesn't mean say he deserves the chance straight away, and doesn't mean say you throw him in. Luke Campbell's probably good enough, but he doesn't deserve the chance to go straight in there, and nor would you want to. Build fighters correctly. Stop giving amateur champions world title shots within fucking 2 fights. It's ridiculous. If you would disagree with me, let me know why, but I can't see why you would disagree with me, because it really is a slap in the face for all the people that go through boxing the correct way, fight after fight, to work their way up.